Hey, all of you out there in Eorzea, welcome to She Heals, I Tank, your weekly Final Fantasy XIV podcast. Today is Friday, August 28th, and this is episode 232 of the Shit Podcast. I'm your host, Vegan Pete. And once again, unfortunately, Avi's voice is not well enough to join us on the show tonight. But for the first time since she's been dealing with this laryngitis, I can say she's finally starting to sound better. Just not well enough to be able to make it through a whole show, and we don't want to have any setbacks. So once again, Avi will not be joining us on the show. But I am happy to say that there is another guest host joining me tonight. It's been quite a while since she has made her last appearance on the show. We have Emi on the show tonight. You may have heard her as a host of MusecastXIV podcast, where you got your role-playing advice and information. Or if you went to FanFest, you may have seen her amazing cosplay of Nanamo. Emi, thank you so much for joining me tonight. How are you doing?
Thanks. I'm doing pretty darn well. It's been a busy day, but super glad to be here and to be back.
I'm super glad too. It's been too long since FanFest. I really appreciate you doing this. And before we get into the episode, we always thank our subscribers. So thank you to Phoenix0220 for 4 months, Fidu1 for 5 months, SpaceCat0514, and LaRosia for 6 months, Mog Moxie for 15 months, and Jessa for 16 months. Thank you all for subscribing. And don't forget, if you do have Amazon Prime, you can link that to your Twitch account, and you can give some lovely streamer your free sub every month. You don't have to use it on us. Just make sure you use it. Take $5 out of Jeff Bezos's pocket and give it to a streamer. So, like I said, we have the amazing Emi with us tonight, and since it's been a while since we've had you on the show, I think I have a couple questions to ask you so people get to know you a little bit better.
Sure thing.
So, what has your experience been with the Final Fantasy franchise, the series in general, and when did you start playing Final Fantasy 14?
Oh goodness. Well, 14 has really been the first game that I really entered the Final Fantasy franchise with. Um, I've been playing at this point for around, I want to say 5 years. Um,
Did you come in
so
right at like 2.0?
it was slightly after 2.0, if I'm remembering correctly. I remember not being like ready for Heaven's Word when it came out.
Okay.
But I remember being there during A Realm Reborn, and I remember people doing coils as like a raid. So I was there back in like 2.x, but I don't quite remember what patch I was there for. But somewhere between 2.0 and 3.0 is when I joined.
Yeah, we're kind of in the same boat. Final Fantasy 14 was my first Final Fantasy as well, and I think I came in around 2.1, 2.2. What
When
about
was that?
the other Final Fantasy franchises? Have you played any of those? Or games, I should say.
Let's see. Since then, I haven't really played through any entire game. I've started 9, I've started 10, but I haven't really been able to get through any of them. I think there's something about like MMOs where I've always kind of nearly as long as I can remember having like a laptop to myself, I've always been involved in some sort of MMO, you know?
Okay.
And so FF14 5 years ago was the MMO I kind of got into and have stuck with ever since. So I've been keeping up to date with that, but otherwise, I don't know. I'd love to get through the more traditional RPGs, but haven't been able to yet.
It can be tough. The only way I was able to make my way through a few of them has been to like make it a stream day where I do 2 hours of it every day. Or not every day, but like every Sunday. And that's the only way I was able to get through 10, 9, and 8, and 7 now. Uh, it takes some commitment. I can understand how people can't get through them right now in these days. Because they're so old. It can be a little bit of a challenge. So what's your
What
MMO history then?
MMO history? Goodness. So really, this is kind of my first like big MMO, if that makes any sense. Before that, I was kind of playing like MMOs that were meant for kids because at that point when I was playing, I was like high school.
Mm-hmm.
So like Wizard 101, Toontown Online, those sorts of things. And then um, by the time I hit college, I went for a spell without really playing much of anything. And then I think it was around sophomore or junior year of college was when a friend of mine recommended 14. And I remember being really, really, really excited to play, but my laptop was really bad. And so when I started out, I was getting like maybe 7 frames a second, and I was
Oof.
trying really hard at that time to get to Circus Tower. Um, Funnily enough, of course, we're in Shadowbringers, and the Crystal Tower plays a pretty pivotal role in
Mm-hmm.
all of that. But I managed to get to Crystal Tower, and then my graphics card couldn't really handle anything beyond that because it was just such poor performance that I couldn't really do much of anything beyond that. But hey, I made it there. And then, eventually I upgraded and now I have my own little desktop and it plays it just fine.
Awesome. And I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this next question. But who is your favorite character in the game and why?
Mm, you know, I used to say like Nanamo hands down. Um I used to say Nanamo hands
There have
down
been
and I
recent
still
developments.
adore Nanamo. At this point, though, I think there's kind of a difference between, like, the characters who have had time to develop or, like, it's kinda based on, like, the playtime of characters, really. The more you see a character, the more chance they have to become a bit more multifaceted,
Yeah.
you know? And so with this patch especially, something about Alphino kinda clicked.
Ooh.
I just comparing him to how he started out and how he kinda just seemed like this stuck-up, snotty rich kid, and now there are just so many different elements to Alphino that I really admire just, like, what he's become, and how far he's grown, and it's the same thing with Nanamo in a way, but I feel like Nanamo hasn't she just doesn't have as much screen time, so I love, 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 love Nanamo. I think I still would say she is one of my favorite characters. She probably still is my favorite character, but in terms of the ones that I love just having seen grown,
Mm-hmm.
it's gotta be Alphino.
Well, Alphino is one of my least favorites, so it's been nice having you, Emmy. Just joking. I'm more of a Alice fan than Alphino.
I like her a lot too. I like her a lot too. I like her character a lot too. I think for Alice, she's grown a little bit, but not quite as drastically as Alfie has.
I definitely see the growth that Alphino has had, but I still don't like the gentleman. But moving on from Alfie, last time
Yeah.
we met was during the last FanFest in 2018. Avi was helping you style your Nanamo wig, and you had an amazing Nanamo cosplay that you wore to the event. What drew you to cosplay, and do you specifically just cosplay Nanamo, or do you have other characters you enjoy to cosplay as well, either Final Fantasy XIV or otherwise?
At this point, I only have been able to cosplay Nanamo lately. I started cosplaying, I want to say back in, it was either the end of high school or the beginning of college. And usually there's some kind of character that I just kind of really resonate with, and in this case, of course, it's Nanamo. Um, but I've cosplayed like things from Axis Powers Hatalia back when that was a big thing. Attack on Titan again back when that was a big thing. And so now at this point, like I haven't been able to cosplay very much. So at this point, only Nanamo. Um, but I would love to be able to cosplay more. It's just cosplay takes a lot of time and money. And considering that I really don't make much of anything myself, the Nanamo cosplay in this case being a prime example of that. Was purchased from another Anonymous cosplayer named Tay Heavengreen,
Okay.
who decided that she wanted to lighten the number of cosplays that she had in her closet. Um, I'd love to do more though. I just don't know who. It's always a question of who and when and how.
And we can't really go anywhere to show off those cosplays now anyway, so you got some time to think about it.
Yeah, man, I wish we had been able to go to FanFest. Like I wish that circumstances hadn't made it so that it wasn't, super dangerous to go out there,
Yeah,
but I look forward to when we do get to have another fan fest, and I'll probably be there again with Nanamo then.
that is awesome. So your main character in the game is Scoot Patoot. What's the main job?
Main job is Paladin. It always has been Paladin. Since since he started, it was the whole concept behind Scoot was how do I make these big bosses just wail on this little tiny, cute as possible Lalafell tank. And so I wanted to know, like, okay, what's the tankiest tank it can possibly be? And at that time, it was Paladin. So since then, he's always stuck with Paladin's his main, Paladin's my main. And I do a little bit of roleplay with Scoot, and it's always he wants to be the biggest, baddest tank, and he's going to be a Paladin. And yeah, it's just always been Paladin. But since then, I have taken on, like, leveling Dancer, leveling Red Mage, Crafters, Gatherers, all that. But definitely Paladin is the main.
And did you always start as a Lala, or did you maybe play around with a different character first, or was that your very first character?
My very first character was a cat girl. It was a Mikote, and now after having played Mikote are probably my least favorite personally to play as. But the whole character never really caught on for me. Like the character, similar to how like characters kind of resonate. Like there was something about the character design that I just didn't particularly like at the time. And then once I made Scoot, I just thought this is kind of a unique character. And so I stuck with Scoot.
Awesome.
And I think I like the name for Scoot a lot better too. So it worked out pretty well.
And so you do a podcast, Musecast XIV, that is all about role play. So obviously, role playing is a big part of the game for you. Did role play help you at all during the latest content lull? We had to wait 2.5 or 2 months for patch 5.3 extra than usual. Did role playing help you get through that? Because you're kind of creating your own stories, creating your own content in the game when you role play.
Yeah, you're right. So during content lulls, I think role playing has helped me with getting through those content lulls. Unfortunately, during this particular content lull, and especially with the patch delay, I didn't really have all that much time to play the game.
Hmm.
Just real life obligations sometimes get in the way, so I didn't really have much time for role play. But I do love, and in the past, during expansions and between patches, I definitely try to take time to go out there and roleplay with Scoot or with Nanamo, and just kind of, you're right, create your own stories because there's really no shortage of plot lines as long as there are
Mm-hmm.
people to roleplay with.
That is awesome. And like I mentioned, you do Musecast XIV and you have a co-host, Remix Sakura, on there. It's been a little bit of a hiatus since your last episode. Do you think that is coming back at some point?
I would love for it to come back. I don't know that we have a time frame for coming back. Uh, Remix, you might know, took decided to take a hiatus just to focus on her own mental health,
Sure.
and it's super important to me, and it's just like taking care of your own mental health is one of the most important things that she can do. And I think it's a great thing that she realized that she needed to step back and work on improving that, and then can come back. But both of us, I think, know that it's something that we love being able to do. And so I'm hoping that we can come back pretty soon, but I don't know if we have a time frame for that. But I'm looking forward to it, and we have so much we want to cover. We have just like Google Drive files full of notes of here are ideas for episodes, and here are some, you know, basic notes on what we want to include in all those episodes.
So still working on it in the background, kind of. You have lots of ideas. But for anyone who has not heard that podcast yet, it's really great. If you've ever been interested in role playing, they have quite a backlog of episodes you can go through. So be sure to check out Musecast XIV. And since you aren't recording podcasts at the moment, you found other creative outlets. I understand that you've been doing projects with both the Lazio Virtual Theater and A Stage Reborn. What's it been like working on those projects?
Well, it's been a lot of fun. It's certainly been pretty busy around here. So for A Stage Reborn, back sometime last year, I believe, we put on our production of A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've been working on putting together a cinematic in game, and sometimes we needed a bit more footage. So I've been stopping by Diavolos every so often to just work on recapturing that. But then for Stellazio's project, we've been working on a production of Phantom of the Opera.
That's
And
awesome.
one of the most interesting things that I've had to do as part of that is because I'm acting in the play, I did have to Fantasia for the role that I got cast in. So instead of being used to being a Lalafell or occasionally a hero female, I am now on one of my characters a hero male with long hair and like a little wispy mustache, and he kind of looks a bit creepy. It's like getting used to all of the emotes that Midlander males have has been so strange, but so much fun because there's always like some kind of emote on whatever race you're playing as, whatever gender you're playing as that you just really, really love. In this case, it's male Midlander disappointment. It's just that the whole mouth goes agape, and if you spam it, it's just hilarious.
Nice. So you don't like it enough to Fantasia Scoot, though, right?
Oh, definitely not. No, Scoot will always stay Lalafell male, and even if he does, he'll always go back to
I
Lalafell
say,
male. But
have you?
it's been so much fun making macros for the show, and for it was fun making macros for Midsummer as well. But of course, now that production's kind of wrapped, so I'm not really making them.
So yeah, I imagine a lot of work goes into making sure all the timing for the macros is right in those productions. Is that something like, is there a director does that? Do all the actors just kind of work together and figure it out? What's going on back there?
It's really a team effort, you know. There's a director who is kind of fine tuning everything, but I found that often, especially if you've been acting in shows in 14 for a while, they'll usually give you a bit more of like creative liberty
Okay.
in terms of what kind of emotes you want to put in. They let you just kind of experiment with what works. And then you work together with the people who you're in your scene with. Um, and it's definitely time and effort intensive, but really rewarding when you start seeing everything kind of come together and the whole scene just kind of clicks.
Well, I have to say, every production that I've seen from both of them, Stellazio Virtual Theater and A Stage Reborn, have all been amazing. So definitely, everyone, be sure to check those out. They're all on YouTube as well if you haven't been able to make a show in person. And besides roleplay and putting on productions in game, what kind of content do you enjoy the most in Final Fantasy XIV? Are you a raider? Do you like slaying primals, crafting to become a gillionaire? What are you doing in game?
Oh goodness. Lately, what have I been up to? Mostly gathering, actually.
Okay.
Um, I never thought that I would like gathering as much as I do, but I think it's number one a good way to make money. Between like gathering and crafting prerequisite things, and it's just kind of a good way to calm down, especially if you don't have anything particular that you want to do in a day. You know, sometimes I just have days where I'm just like I want to play 14. I don't know exactly what I'll do, and often it goes to gathering. Besides that, lately, um, I guess roleplay is not an option, is it? We said besides roleplay. So I would say I do like doing extreme primals, but I don't get many opportunities to do them lately.
Okay.
And I'd love to get back into raiding, but it's the same thing there. It's hard to get a group together uh, for me to do just because my schedule's super inconsistent.
Yeah, it is pretty time intensive, and if you like doing it with the static, that takes even more time to put it together. So your gatherers, which you've been doing lately, did you already have them at max level, or have you been using the Restoration of Ishgard to level them?
I used the restoration, if I'm remembering correctly, to level my crafters, but not so much my gatherers. I think that was the case. It's been a while, but my gatherers I know for sure were definitely level 80 by the time that Ishgard came
Yeah.
out. Um, so that part I think was pretty much set. And I loved once what patch was it where you had the fishing
Oh, the
expeditions
ocean
going on?
fishing.
Yeah.
hmm I don't remember what patch it was. Probably
I don't
5.1.
I don't remember what
Maybe it's
patch that
5.2
was.
since it's
I
been so
thought
long
that
ago.
yeah, it's been a while, but I thought that that new way of fishing was a whole lot of fun. I haven't been doing it lately just because I don't think a lot of other people are doing it lately. But I think just kind of between the 3 of them, gathering has just become a lot of fun.
Seemed kind of like a fad, right? Lasted for a season and then no one really does it anymore.
Yeah, I think most people tend to go just for whatever rewards there were. They wanted, like, the shark mount, and there were there minions there too, I
Yeah, there was
think?
a. I think there was a little shark minion, wasn't there?
Yeah, people wanted the minions and the mounts, and then sooner or later it all dies down. It's the same thing kind of with your primals too. With all the trials, like, eventually the content goes out of date, and then people stop doing it until it's able to be farmed, and you can do it in, like, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Or not even that, like, a minute.
Chat is saying it's still good for leveling ocean fishing.
It is.
See, I had everything to 80 before Restoration came out too, or all the crafting and gathering to 80, I should say. And so that really never struck a chord with me. I felt like I was just doing it for a couple minions. Didn't really mean anything to me. But if you did Restoration of Ishgard for your crafters, did you really feel like you were building something in the Restoration of Ishgard?
For me, not so much. I think it was partially because I had just, like, the goal in mind of trying to get all the emotes.
Mm,
I'm very much that's another thing that I like doing. That might be one of my end games is emote farming.
a little bit of a collector.
Definitely. And it kind of makes sense if you're kind of an actor in game too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you kind of need all those emotes to have a lot of things to play
Of
with.
course.
So I like collecting emotes, and so in this case, it was like, okay, I'm gonna do it so I can get the emotes and the parasol, and then at that point, I'll be done. I didn't get the chance to be online during any of the fates, but I would have loved to take part in that.
Yeah. I missed pretty much all of those as well. Well, thank you so much, Emi. I like getting to know you a little bit more, and I'm sure our audience does as well. So let's get into this episode now. We have everyone's favorite segment, the Greenleaf Minute. And Avi usually does her jingle here, but I'll do it instead. Greenleaf Minute.
That was
Uh,
lovely.
huh? And this week it does come from Avi, though. So Avi's putting her little stamp on the episode. Since the introduction of flying in old A Realm Reborn zones, Avi was kind of missing running and jumping around in those zones. And I've heard the same complaint from a few other people. How about you, Emmy? Are you missing being able to run and jump around in the old A Realm Reborn areas?
You know, I haven't been. I have been mostly running and jumping, and I think part of that is just because of the way that I have my controls set up.
Yeah, so that is the tip for the Greenleaf Minute. Avi was missing it, so there actually is a way for you to continue to be able to jump around in those old zones without taking off and starting to fly. By default, this is set to auto, I believe, for your flying mount to take off when you just jump. But if you go to System and then Character Configuration, and then on the first page in the General tab, you'll see Flying Mount Takeoff. And all you have to do is change that from auto to manual, and then you'll need to do a double jump instead of fly, or double jump to fly instead of a single jump. So if you've been missing running and frolicking jumping in A Realm Reborn areas, that's your solution. Pretty easy fix. So you can feel like it's the Realm Reborn of old and just fly when you really, really want to. What's your opinion in general on that, Emmy? Are you glad there is flying in A Realm Reborn zones now?
You know, I personally really like it. From what I'm remembering, I think you do have to complete the Realm Reborn story to be able to fly. It's kind of similar to how you need to complete the main scenario quests in other areas of Heaven's Word, Stormblood, Shadowbringers, in order to really be able to fly there. So I think it's really nice for after the fact. I think it's great for anybody who, for example, is Odin hunting.
Mm.
For people who, if you're like me, I love screenshots. So if you're taking a lot of screenshots, that gives you a good way to have a new perspective. taking really cool landscape shots, and just kind of seeing Eorzea from a new perspective.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well. I did like you just said, that different perspective. I loved seeing the environment from up top. They said they didn't have like the most time to test it, so I was hoping I was gonna run into some glitches and stuff, but I have not run into any yet. Um, but I'm a big fan of it as well, and if you don't want to fly, you can just not fly.
Yeah, it's true. You can always run around like you did before.
And with that, we're gonna get to Avi's favorite segment. It's the tweet of the week. It's the tweet of the week, and this tweet happens to come from Discord this week. This was from Henry Rollins that messaged me after our episode last week. Hey Pete, just finished latest episode of the Shit Pod and wanted to dish on the job speculation for the next expansion. I think Blue Mage will be getting upgraded to a fully playable caster DPS as a sort of bonus, and new jobs will be healer and another ranged. Will be sitting at 4 jobs per role across the board, and at that point, I think that is where they will stop as far as new jobs are concerned. And I thought that was a damn bold, wild speculation that Blue Mage is going to get upgraded to a fully playable caster DPS. That would take a complete rework of Blue Mage. How do you like Blue Mage, first of all, Emmy?
I've only gotten it up to 50. I've heard that at 60, I mean, there are new attacks. I've heard there's an emote that comes from it, so I really should be doing it. But all that said, I liked playing Blue Mage up to 50 at least. It's traditionally, though, fallen behind the usual level cap, though, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's always been like 10 or 20 levels below or something like that. It's never at the max cap.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they upgraded it beyond 70 for the next expansion pack.
I think it's pretty cool that I know a lot of people's problem with Blue Mage is that it isn't a full job that you can take into real content in raids. So I know it would make a lot of people happy if it was a fully playable job, but I just don't see them going that route personally, but I'd be kind of interested if they did, because I know a lot of people are really wanting that.
I would love the idea of using the Blue Mage attacks in battle, but I think the way that it's structured right now, it seems like Blue Mage is kind of overpowered and underpowered at the same time. It's very much like a puzzle solving thing where in certain situations some things will work better than others. So I think it would take a good amount of reworking to make it kind of feasible in combat. And then what would it be? Because right now it's like, it's listed under DPS-ish, but it's a healer, it's got healing things, it's got some things that make you a bit more tanky.
It could be whatever they feel that they want to make it. I kind of don't think we're going to get a new tank job anytime soon, so I don't think it would be a tank. I think they're definitely going to go DPS and healer in the next expansion.
We definitely need a healer for the next expansion.
Yes.
I would be completely shocked if they didn't put in a healer for the next one, because everybody's like, there are so few healing jobs right now, and they put in another tank and they put in another DPS with Shadowbringers. So it's like, okay, where's our healer? Where's our healer?
Whenever, wherever the next fan fest is, if they do not announce a healer, there will be a riot.
A riot?
They're going to be flipping chairs in whatever hall we're at. All right, now it's time for news and notes from around the realm. Yoshida took to the lodestone to address a couple of issues. The first issue I wasn't even aware of. Apparently, people wanted new titles for being in the top 12 in the Ishgardian Restoration for each phase. Yoshida says the team did consider this, but they ultimately decided to keep just one title. But there will be an additional achievement for each phase of the restoration, and the next phase of the restoration will be starting on Tuesday, September 8th. Had you heard about this at all?
I hadn't heard about the request for additional titles. I know I have a couple of friends who had gotten the titles from the past one. Maybe it was something that was asked for on the forum somewhere. I don't
Yeah.
really pay attention to the forums all that often, but often they will take, you know, consideration to things that are requested on the forum. So could be there.
I think this is a good compromise because I don't think you really need a new title. You're basically doing the same thing just during a different step of the restoration. So I like that they're making additional achievements, but you don't really need a new title for that.
Yeah, I think that's a decent compromise. Can you see what achievements other people have gotten if you're on PC?
I don't know if you can see achievements in game. I think you might be able to look up their character on the lodestone if they have it set to public and see some achievements,
Hmm.
or at least their most recent achievements. I don't know if there's a way in game for people to see your achievements.
I haven't looked, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think there is other than like anything you might be wearing that you might have gotten from achievement, and obviously setting your title. But I think if you go online on the lodestone, you can see like how many achievement points they have.
Hmm.
Yoshida also wanted to talk about the housing situation, always a contentious topic. Since the suspension of the housing demolition combined with many people returning to Eorzea during the pandemic, it's led to a housing shortage again.
Again,
And due to the pandemic, they aren't able to get the hardware needed to upgrade servers for a better solution, but they are going to be adding more additional wards to the 4 housing districts. These will be coming in patch 5.35. Does this affect you, or do you already have your house?
I have had my dream house for a long time now, so it won't affect me. But I know a lot of people on one of the Discord servers that I manage are looking for houses, and they joined the server that I'm running just like to try and find houses. So I know this is affecting a whole lot of people, and people are hopeful that they'll, get a plot, any plot at this point, um, within there. But I've definitely seen there's been a lot of frustration around people who just want to get houses, and of course, auto demolition isn't turned on.
Yep.
So I'm really glad that they're listening and doing whatever they can to try and address it. You know, more
This
people
is
people safe.
really one of the biggest issues I have with the game is that like if you pay your subscription, you should be able to have access to the same things that everyone else has. And this is really the one thing I can point to where it's like you're not getting the full experience as everyone else because
Right.
it's a limited resource for some reason in this game. And that really is one of the biggest negatives for me in the game. Like I know they
And
want to keep that whole like neighborhood feel to the wards, but I'm like at this point just do instanced housing.
it's like they did that to a point with apartments, but it's still like it's not the same floor plan as a house. You don't get your yard. I would love to see implemented some kind of instanced housing where you basically get all the same privileges. Maybe you don't get that neighborhood feel, but like imagine if you could upgrade your plot to the size of house that you wanted, and
Yeah.
you pay whatever amount of gil that a large house would cost, and then okay, here you go, here's your large house.
I think that's a great idea. And I think for those people who maybe can't even afford a house, um, if they even just made like instanced gardening, so you had access to like 3 plots just to garden, because gardening is one of the best ways to make gil in the game.
Right?
So
It
like,
really is.
yeah, and that's something they could do for the apartments. Just make like a community gardening plot, call it that, but obviously it would be an instance, so you only have access to be able to plant whatever you want. I think that would be a good solution if they don't want to get away from the neighborhood feel that they have now. But
Yeah, that would be a good option.
yeah, he goes on to say, where is it? Oh, yeah, there was a little bit of misused terminology in this post. He says each district will receive 6 new wards, 3 standard and 3 subdivisions. And I think this was a little confusing for some people because I saw people saying, hey, they're adding 6 new wards. But in game, 1 ward consists of a standard division and a subdivision. So really, I believe that we're in game, we're going to be receiving 3 wards. And I think we're going to be getting wards 22, 23, and 24 because we're at 21 now. So 3 wards per district means we'll be getting 12 new wards total. And at 60 plots per ward, that means we'll be getting 720 new plots available. And he continues that these plots will be open to FCs and individuals, but you will still have to deal with that damn timer. So previously it was only open to FCs at the beginning. Now they're making it open to FCs and individuals since there's so few plots available.
Yeah, I think there was a bit of confusing terminology around that too, even. Looking at the post, I read that it said that either type of estate will be immediately available for purchase without restriction. And it kind of makes me worried that people are going to think like, well, I get to skip the timer then if it's my first plot.
No.
I don't think that's going to be the case.
Yeah,
I
I can see how there's
there.
confusion with that too, and I agree with you. I don't think they're going to do away with the timer. I think the restriction was between FC and individual.
Yeah, and I think similarly, it's probably the same rules where it's like you can't buy 5 FC houses on the same account.
Yeah, so that has been fixed. It's just like the annoying part about that was they didn't take away the houses. They grandfathered people in that had done that, and
Mhm.
that's really annoying. But
I'm one of them. Shh.
you're one of them. Jeez.
I'm one of them.
At Emi Koch VA if you want to rage tweet her.
Give up your personal.
But yeah, so this is going to be a great time if you're trying to upgrade to a larger size house, because when you are relocating your house, you don't have to deal with that timer. So if you got lucky enough to get yourself a small plot, this is going to be your best opportunity for a while to try to upgrade to a medium or a large. And
Yeah.
go
And
ahead.
even if you do wind up with a small plot, just like wait around until one goes up, because again, you can relocate immediately.
Mm-hmm. And
Um,
we're hoping that we eventually get Ishgard housing, which I think that's what the restoration of Ishgard is leading to. And then if Ishgard housing eventually gets 24 wards, that'd be 1,444 more plots. So that's also going to be another opportunity for you to upgrade houses. So definitely if you have the opportunity this time to even get a small, you need to do it.
yeah, I'm wondering if they're building the 3 wards, knowing that, or 6 wards, but like three wards. Does that make any sense? 3 wards, but 6 wards, but 3 wards?
Well, it's because they said 6 wards in the description, but then they said 3 standard, 3 subdivisions, and in game, 1 ward is 1 standard, 1 subdivision.
3 ward numbers.
Yeah.
I think I'll put it like that. 3 word numbers. So I wonder if those 3 word numbers then are inclusive. Like, are they preparing in advance for the Ishgard housing, the 24 new wards, later? Or are they saying that we can't build the 24 new wards until we have the additional server capacity?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm hoping that they're able to add Ishgard housing without needing the hardware for it, but I don't know enough about programming and how much space everything really takes. I know Chili's saying it's probably going to be in 5.55. Yeah, I had kind of thought the same thing. It's going to be in that time that we're waiting for the new expansion that they're going to add Ishgard housing.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? What's your opinion?
I think it might be in between now and the next expansion. I doubt that they're planning on adding it like immediately with the new Ishgard restoration. Like it's not coming right now. Otherwise, we would have heard about it now.
Yeah.
But I think, complete speculation here, but I would think that whenever Ishgard housing is available to come out to people, it's going to be at a time when like we don't have to deal with the pandemic and we don't have to deal with the current situation. So I'm personally happy with the 3 ward numbers right now, because they're still listening to the demand, they still hear us, they realize there are going to be limitations, um, and hopefully for the 720 people who wind up with houses, or maybe fewer than that, but the 720 new plot owners, um, at least they'll be happy with it.
Yep. So you mentioned you already have your dream house.
I do.
What is your dream house?
My dream house, I've got a goblet mansion in a Ward 2 subdivision on Gilgamesh.
So it had to be in the goblet, right?
It didn't have to be in the goblet. Actually, when I was looking for a mansion anywhere, and it just so happened that a mansion in the goblet came up, and I've fallen in love with the plot since and never want to move.
I'm on Gilgamesh as well, and I can't believe I transferred over from Adamantoys and got to Gilgamesh. All the housing was taken up, and I was playing that game where you had to go to someone's house that got demolished, and you had to stand there with 20 other people clicking that placard to try to get the plot. And not even gonna lie, like it just took for fucking ever. It was a horrible experience. It's one of the worst experiences in the game trying to get that first plot. But
I'm thankful that I didn't have to deal with that. I was there before we had to deal with the random timer. And even then, auto demolition was still a thing at that point. So I was still like, it was probably, I want to say, a month of sleeping in 1-hour shifts at a time, just trying to see if anything had gotten demolished. I can't imagine staying up, super duper late for hours and hours at a time, waiting for, how long, some random amount of time, really,
yeah,
to
you
get
have
a
no
house.
idea.
And then you might not even get it.
Yep.
It's really, really hard to get the first plot. After that, it's a lot easier. But then you're still, looking every hour for an auto demo.
And I've actually heard stories now of like, people can use macros to like keep on clicking on the placards and whatnot. And then someone ends up winning it and they see the person keep on clicking. So they'll put a merchant like closer to the placard so that when they're going through their macro, they select the merchant and it will start buying stuff from that merchant.
Oh my
And
goodness.
we'll like
So
clean
there
them
are
out.
bots buying it? Is
Huh?
that it? Are there bots who are just trying to buy houses?
It can be bots, it could be real people. Like I could program my keyboard to do the, whatever 12 keystrokes it takes to click on the different options to buy a house. But if I just left that going and I lost the house, but I was keep on clicking, someone could put their retainer avatar right there and I'd start buying shit off their retainer.
Well, I hope that. I guess you could technically drain somebody of all their gil that way.
Yeah.
That's terrible. That's amazing, and that's also terrible.
It's like, that's not the best thing to do, but it's also kind of hilarious at the same time.
Yeah.
But hopefully this alleviates some of the housing crunch with everything. And what do you think their solution is? Like they say they're not able to add the hardware for it, but they don't say what their actual solution is. Like, are they just going to keep on adding more and more wards? Is that what the solution is? Just try to add the wards as they're needed?
It
Or
certainly has been in the past. It's just like their solution is to keep on adding wards. I don't know if the eventual solution will be on-demand wards, but it seems like that's the way that they continue to address it instead of doing an instanced housing.
which seems
So
weird
I
because
think we're more likely to see it, but then it's like, could people then just relocate from from a small house to a large house, and then like only relocate when a new ward is up, and then you won't have any small houses there?
that's kind of what I'm talking about. It's like either that scenario that you just said, or eventually the population in the game is going to dwindle at some point. You're just
Mhm.
gonna have a whole bunch of empty wards. You're gonna consolidate when that happens. Like, what are you going to do? And what happens if so many people have the large houses? You can't really consolidate all the wards and force them into a small house, can you? Like, I don't know what the great solution is in all of this.
Me neither. Housing is really, really tough with the way that the system is structured.
Yeah. So I kind of feel like they're pigeonholed into an old system, and we're not really going to get a solution that everyone is happy with this. But it is what it is. Square Enix has also added some new optional items to the Final Fantasy XIV store this week. The one that everyone has been talking about is the new mount, the Chocobo Carriage. Have you seen this one? Do you like it?
I haven't seen it in game yet. I've only seen the pictures on the Mog station at this point. I do love that it's a new 4-seater mount, and it's just a lot of fun to kind of carry your friends around in one mount. But I haven't used it, so I don't know a whole lot about it, and I haven't seen it used in game yet.
So very reminiscent of the little Chocobo Carriage that we started the game with as we were rolling into either Ul'dah or Gridania. It's got Gridania colors. It's a yellow plumes, I guess. I don't know. But it's gonna run you $36.
Quite a bit.
Is that something you're buying on your own?
For me, probably not. I've already got my what is it, Regalia mount? So I don't think that I would like it, but if you don't have a Regalia, this might be a good choice.
And the description on the store reads, a ubiquitous mode of transportation in Eorzea. The Chocobo Carriage is kept aloft by cerulean gas-filled bladders. I guess that's the word I was looking for, bladders. This technology traces its origins to an early Ixali dirigible that crashed into the Twelves Wood and was seized by Gridanian authorities. Accommodating a total of 4 passengers, no destination will be beyond the reach of you and your friends. I went too far. I got away from the picture of the mount on screen. But yeah, I think this is a pretty cool mount. I don't know if it's worth $36.
Yeah, I mean, you can carry a whole bunch of friends in it, but if you've got a 4-seater mount already, I probably wouldn't splurge for it.
Yeah, I'm definitely not splurging on this. What about this next one? For Scoot, are you going to be getting the Bergsteiger's attire?
You know, it's really cute, but I don't know that I would put it on Scoot. I'm pretty much tied to his existing superhero glamour. But I think it's really cute, and I've seen a couple of friends, not in the male outfit, but in the female version, the Dirndl attire. And I think it's really nice. I think both of those are pretty nice.
Okay, what about $18 for single character?
A bit much for me.
Yeah, that's a bit much for an attire for a single character.
If it wide, maybe.
Yeah, account wide, I can definitely see it. $18, that's a bit much. The description on this reads, a sturdy yet stylish creation brought about through an artful use of quality fabrics and leather. The sleeveless jacket and leather shorts are complemented by a feathered cap and fingerless gloves, each piece lovingly crafted by seasoned artisans. This 5-piece set includes a hat, jacket, gloves, pants, and boots. Unfortunately, the headgear will not be displayed when equipped by Hrothgar characters.
No! My poor Hrothgar friend, if he ever wanted to get this, it's another outfit where he cannot have a hat.
Another outfit where they can't have a hat, and maybe when we talk about the female version that you mentioned just a second ago, they might feel even more put out. Because on this Dirndl's attire, the headpiece does show up for the Viera.
I see where they're putting their development resources.
So yeah, this next piece, the Dirndl's attire, It's something that you might see at like an Oktoberfest or on Julie Andrews and the Sound of Music. I know Avi really liked this one because the top and the skirt are separate. So you can mix and match, which I guess a lot of things, the skirt kind of comes with the top. So she was really excited about that. And I know a lot of people in our Discord, anyways, were really excited about the bosom upgrade you get when you buy this outfit, which I
I
have
was
not.
not aware of that.
What was that?
I was not aware of that.
Yeah, apparently they added some boob physics to the game when you have this. There is some jiggle when you are running.
Interesting. Another interesting difference I found is it looks like from the pictures the socks may come with the shoes on the female outfit, but the male outfit in the photos, it looks like they have their socks potentially attached to the bottoms and not the shoes.
Oh, I see what you're looking at right now. When they showed just the shoes, they had no socks showing, but when they had
Right.
the shorts on, they were showing the
There are
socks.
And with the female version, you see something with only the shoes, but the socks are on there. So I think the socks are tied to the shoes in the female.
Interesting fact. I never would have noticed that. And the description for these reads, an elegant dress made with the finest green and white fabrics. The fitting bodice and flowing long skirt serve to accentuate the embroidered apron and purple ribbon about the waist. This 5-piece set includes a hat, bodice, wrist torques, a long skirt, and pumps. And like I mentioned, the hat does appear on the Viera, unlike the hat on the previous piece and the Rothgar. So, Square Enix says, suck it, Rothgar, apparently.
I guess so. I do. Kudos to whoever's writing the descriptions for both of these. I may not be buying it, but it's a very, very nice description of both of them.
And this one will run you $18 as well, just like the male version, and is also going to be single character only, just like the male version. So, I hope you get your money's worth on your one character, which I think is probably okay for the majority of people, since you can play all the jobs on every character. But if you're one of those people who like kind of splits their time equally between a couple data centers, then this is kind of annoying that you can't get the same outfit on all your characters.
Yeah, if you play multiple characters, it's not fun getting Mog Station things for everything.
Yeah. Also available in this new optional items added is the brave new Y'shtola minion for $5. There's also posters from past year's Rising events for $5 each. Moonfire Fair poster for $5, and the authentic portable pool and authentic wind chime stand for $5 each as well, which I believe were from the latest, or not the latest, the last Moonfire Fair. Speaking of the Rising, though, we got the 7th anniversary of A Realm Reborn and the Rising event. Have you done it, Emi?
I have. And of course, what better way to celebrate it than reminisce on the Sultana 7? Some people might have read from Tales from the Calamity, but some people might not have. So I think it's really cool that you get a look at that little story, because it's one of my favorites, of course, being somebody who loves all things Ul'dah. And personally, for an event quest, I think it was kind of cool that they went into, at least on some level, like some of the values of Ul'dah and how it might have strayed and how it might not have. And I really enjoyed playing through the whole quest line and getting to know the characters in there, even though it was a super short quest overall.
Yeah, it was a short quest. I enjoyed it as well. I think my biggest problem was the main guy that we're dealing with. He says he's doing work in stained glass, and that thing definitely did not look stained glass. It just looked like a painting. And I know that's a nitpick, but I was like, that doesn't look like stained glass at all. That was my
Oh,
biggest gripe with it.
I've got another nitpick of this too. Can I spoil it? Can
Go
I
ahead.
spoil what happens? So
Spoiler
during
alert right now, everyone.
Spoiler alert. So during the quest, a bunch of kids go and they accidentally break, but they break the stained glass, and you have to go and put it back together. And after putting it back together, there is literally no sign that the thing ever broke. No cracks anywhere, no signs of glue. Like, man, even if you had to repair it, like I don't think it would have broken cleanly in the places where the stained glass
And the funny
would.
part is when we like put it back together, for a while you could kind of like see the lines in the cracks, and that looked more like stained glass than it looked like before. And then all
Yeah,
of a sudden it just went back to
it was away.
yeah. I agree. So yeah, I agree. They are nitpicks. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty fun story. You can do it in about, I don't know, what, 20, 30 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, I would say so. And I loved that it went into like the characters' motivations for like our so-called antagonist. I think the name was like Aston,
Yeah, Aston.
the money lender character, and goes into the motivations for that. And it's something I love about 14 is just like the character development in some places, and just kind of having the opportunity to flesh out personality things that you might not notice in other MMOs.
Yeah, he was a loan shark. I see your point of view, but I'm also like, they can never just let anyone be a bad person. I don't know.
It's like they have to redeem absolutely everybody.
Yeah.
I was doing it to support my friend because I wanted my friend to be able to freely create, which is great. It's lovely. Um, I see your point. I see your point, though. Not everybody has to be redeemed.
Yeah. And so the rewards for this, we get a minion and a poster, and we also unlock a little jigsaw puzzle for your toy box that you're in.
Yeah.
I thought that
I
was
did that
kind of fun.
right before I hopped on here. I did the puzzle. I usually don't.
So you are more lore versed for old and probably most things in the game definitely than I am. Was there anything else from this quest that you thought was of note?
Not in particular. Just kind of taking a look at the Sultana 7. I think I enjoyed having a rehash of that, even though I was already familiar with the quest. I think, or with the story.
Mm-hmm.
I think that other people who aren't, at least will get a little look into that. And I would love to see more of that done with other Tales stories.
Yeah, so Sultana 7 was kind of during the time as Dalamud was falling, right?
It was, yes.
So that's the little teaser for you guys. If you want to figure out what the Sultana 7 is, you got to do the quest. All right, and I believe Avi gave you a question for... Trying to teach me some lore.
I do indeed. Now this is a question actually that I believe you might have answered incorrectly in the past.
I don't think that's ever happened in the history of the show. She must have been lying to you.
We'll see if you can answer this one though. Maybe second time's a charm.
Hit me with it.
So, the Ash Crown Consortium is an organization dedicated to the distribution of elemental crystals, which we learned back in A Realm Reborn. So my question for you now is, who founded the business many years ago? Would you like to hear the options?
I think I know it, but go ahead, tell me the options.
Okay, your options are the Imalja, the Ixal, the Sylphs, or the Kobolds.
Oh, I think I remember this question. I was going back and forth between a couple of them. What's the consortium? Ash something? Ash Ketchum?
Ash Crown.
Fuck.
Ash Crown Consortium. Yeah.
Who founded it? One of those beast tribes did it?
One of the beast tribes did it.
Shit. Crown of Ash, I have no idea. I'm going to go with... I feel like I need to go against my instinct because I probably went with my instinct the first time, and now I'm 100% sure I'm just overthinking it.
Mhm.
I probably went with like the Amalja the first time. I'm gonna go with the Sylphs this time.
You are right. You
Hell
got it. It
yeah.
was indeed the Sylphs who founded it.
Yeah, I can't believe I got that one wrong the first time. Got it right. Yeah, Howard, thank you. Um, thank you for that, Emmy. You don't have one on your own that you want to hit me with, do you?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, good. Oh, thought you were gonna hit me with a surprise one. Let's get into a little bit of what we've done in patch 5.3. Oh, yeah, 5.3. Do you have a favorite part so far?
Oh man, what was my favorite part? I would probably say the main scenario was my favorite. Um, in the main scenario, especially for Shadowbringers, there have been a couple characters featured pretty prominently that I didn't like.
Oh yeah, like
But
who?
in five,
Which ones didn't you not like?
in particular, I'm not a big fan of Grahatia or Y'shtola personally.
Okay.
However, in patch 5.3, they had moments for both of those characters that I actually liked quite a lot, where they did things with the characters. Um, in particular, Y'shtola's interaction with Runar, and just the way that Graha kind of came back, where you kind of saw a little bit of um, that little bit of like uncertainty, even if it was a bit of an act. I liked what they did with both of them, and I liked where both of them turned, where they turned out or how they turned out at the very end.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even though I may not like the characters, on a personal level, I just thought that there were really good moments with both of them, and it surprised me.
I'm right there with you with Grahatia. I've always kind of liked Y'shtola though. We have claims that you're a cat racist in chat. Is that true?
I wouldn't say I'm a cat racist, but I do tend to you know what? No, I favor other races. Like I hold Mikote on a higher standard character wise. Sounds like something a cat racist would say. I'm seeing.
Are
No,
some
but in
are some
all
of your
honesty,
best friends Makotes?
I mean, some of my friends are Mikotes. But in this expansion entirely, I loved Julia Chai
Okay, yeah.
and I loved both of them. Um, so I think it's particularly Grahatia and Y'shtola that I just kind of have had a problem with.
So what scene or part in particular warmed you up to Y'shtola in 5.3?
So I might have mentioned it before, but it was the interaction with Runar.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Y'shtola does tend to use snark quite a lot, but in this way it was actually endearing for me.
And
I liked her I liked her determination and saying I'm going to come back. Like the confidence in there I think was called for and it was great.
I agree. I think she really cared for him, and she legitimately really thinks she's gonna find a way back.
It was a touching moment and I think like even though sometimes I may say she's over capable and she's used for plot armor sometimes, I think she really is capable of doing that, you know? Like
Yeah,
I think even without her being used for plot fodder sometimes I think she's perfectly capable of it.
what if she finds her way back, but like it involves her getting a crystal and us having to bring her back to the first every time?
Mm,
She's like, "Sorry, Scoot, I've got a booty call. Take me over to Runar."
I feel like she's the kind of person who she'll figure out a way to make it happen though. If that's the only way, then she'll do it.
And we just gotta
She's
ferry her to Runar all the time.
yeah.
But overall, you really enjoyed patch 5.3 MSQ.
I did. It did, like I said, it did really great things with the characters. I think really great at closing up the arc on the first. So I really liked it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Let's talk about dwarves, the new beast tribe. What's your opinion on them?
Well, they're okay. I just finished up the rank 7 quest today. And personality-wise, they're okay, but I like looking at the history of the dwarven civilization, and it took a while to get there, but I liked what I learned. I think between that and some of the things that we learned about how the dwarves kind of resolve conflicts and the way that like some of their festivals in the Yorha quests,
Mm-hmm.
I really do like the dwarven civilization. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, you're probably a little more well versed on the civilization's history on that. I kind of just liked the people in that were involved in the Dwarven Beast Tribe quest, and I do see a little bit of what you were saying, how there is one dwarf in the Dwarven Beast Tribe quest that's from the other tribe, but they are working together. So I really enjoyed that, and I like the history of Watts's hammer. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten my tank yet.
Aw. You get the tank at rank 7,
Yeah,
I found out.
I think I'm getting that tonight. I
Yeah.
missed
I
a
think
day.
another thing that I liked about the dwarves is like a beast tribe quest is usually in past beast tribes there's tended to be like a good faction of something and a bad faction of something. Um, in this case, there are still kind of two factions, but the whole thing revolves around them working together rather than them like always being pitted up against one another. I think between them and the Qatari, they the Shadowbringers beast tribes really have become like the only thing that really makes them a beast tribe is the beast tribe structure. And I
Yeah,
think that's fine. I love that it kind of shatters the whole idea of what a beast tribe is
yeah.
to
We
just
don't need him to be collecting crystals to
yeah.
summon something.
We
Uh,
aren't summoning anything. They aren't really going against a city state, like which is why the beast tribes are called that around here. Um, it's just it's a beast tribe. It's a class format.
yeah, and I'm really enjoying the story. I think like the daily quest part, that's all. That's kind of just what I expect. Nothing's really been too exciting or anything like that. But the actual like cutscenes that we get have been good. I liked when we had that little bartender that we got to mix drinks with. Did you do that part?
I didn't get that quest.
So if you get the quest, you go up the stairs and you mix drinks for this one dwarven. I believe it's a dwarven girl. Um, and then later on, you can go back to her and you start mixing drinks, and you can mix drinks for like a fairy that comes by. And oh my god, I'm just blanking on the other two that come by now. But there's like 3 different drinks you can make, and you get different dialogue based on what drink you make each character that comes by, and it's pretty cool. So maybe go next time you log in, go to that character and check it out. So a dwarf, a fairy, and a Viera. Oh yeah, Lena from the guard comes by
Oh
and gets a drink
yeah,
from
yeah,
you.
yeah.
So
Oh, that's really cool. I do need to check that out then.
yeah, that was a cool little addition that it wasn't necessarily like part of the quest. You had to go back later and talk to the person.
Hmm.
So yeah, dwarves definitely get a big thumbs up in my book. Something else that has returned is the Yokai Watch event. How much of this did you do the first time around?
The first time I think I got around to getting most of the minions, but I didn't get all of them. I remember I didn't get the second glowy mount
Mm-hmm.
um, the first time around, but I think I'm going to take part in it this time. I think I'm going to continue where I left off.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I got 8 minions, and I only know that because on Wednesday I actually gave this an event, the old college try. I had only gotten 8 the first time, and so I didn't have any of the mounts. But after my Wednesday play session, I was able to get I said mount, I meant minion. I was able to get the rest of the minions, and get that first mount.
Mhm.
And so anyone that's doing this, I recommend getting pick whatever minion you want the most. And then after you get that minion, look up what zone you have to go to get the weapon that goes along with that minion. Because you have to summon that minion and have it out while you're doing fates in a specific zone to get the legendary medals for the weapon that goes along with it. And you need way more legendary medals for the weapons than you do medals for the minions. So as long as you're getting the legendary ones for the weapon for the minion you have out, you're going to end up with so many extra regular medals that you're going to be able to buy all the minions. Like easily. So just work on the weapons every time you have a minion, and you're going to end up with all the minions anyways.
It still seems like it'll be a bit grindy though, just because of all the metal collecting.
Oh, it is a bit grindy, but people were telling me on stream when I was doing it that it used to be so much more grindier. Like you used to need like 30 for a weapon, and now you
Oh wow.
only need 10. So they've really cut back on that. And I think the drop rate has been upped as well. People are reporting that it was around 30% that you get the legendary weapon or medals, and I got runs of like 6 fates in a row, so it can go pretty quick. And occasionally I went through a couple dry streaks as well, but overall not nearly as bad as the first time.
Well, I'm sure. And especially for the people who had already gotten some or all of the um, minions and weapons the last time we had a yokai event.
Yeah, so if for the people that already like got everything last time, they were done with this event really quick. So there was only 4 new minions to get and the 4 new weapons to go with those minions. So they were probably done a couple hours, maybe 3 hours maybe took them. Not too long.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wish this would have been coming in 5.2 though. Like I wish they could have pushed it up. They're like, I wish we had like something to do in those 2 months that we were out of regular content for.
Mm-hmm. At the same time, there's a lot to do in this patch.
Yeah, there is a lot to do. One of the things I was most looking forward to was the Sapphire Weapon, and I finally got to that this week. It's weird that I was like so excited for that, but it took me a whole week to even get to it. And
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed the story. The fight itself was just okay for me. And starting with that, the fight, I found that just hovering over the water was kind of annoying, and it just really made me wish I had been able to fly and battle in the air. It didn't really feel epic to me.
Mm-hmm.
I had said I was going to be fine with a solo encounter instead of like a 8-man primal battle, because when we had our relic resistance weapon solo encounter, it was so good and I really enjoyed the story in that. I just don't feel like this one lived up to that. How did you feel about it?
You know, I had no idea that this was going to be a solo duty.
Oh,
I
really?
hadn't done any research on it at all. So I didn't know that you wouldn't have a party. I was just thinking it was going to be another trial. So for me, it was definitely a different vein of duty than what I was expecting. Um, I thought that one of the things that I noticed in basically any duty where you're playing as another character with a different move set is you, as a keyboard and mouse player, I haven't found a way to bind anything on like that special actions hotbar to a key. That or I just haven't done it yet. But I have to click on every single attack. I think for people playing on a controller, it's probably a bit different. But for me, it's just like, okay, I have to click on every single one individually. So that part made it feel a little clunky, combined with where the hotbar was. I probably should have moved it, but I wasn't really expecting it all that much. Um,
So I believe if you hit like on your main hotbar, like your number one hotbar, I think if you hit left on like if you unlock it and then hit the left button to like rotate your hotbar, it goes to that one.
there we go. Greenleaf Minute for me.
So yeah, that'll make it a little bit easier next time. But I agree. I understand that they don't want to hit us with too many things for a job or class that we're not familiar with. What do you think about the mechanics of the fight?
The mechanics were all right. I thought that the tutorial around the mechanics, I think, was the big thing that I kind of thought was interesting. Usually when you play as characters with different move sets, they don't really give you all that many attacks.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering, like, why in the world would the devs have thought that you really needed this briefer on just what everything did? Um, did the devs think that there were too many attacks, maybe? Or was it something like, okay, you're in a mech, so as a warrior of light, getting into this new thing, like, we need to teach you how to use the mech, so we're going to give you give you a tutorial. Um, Immersion wise, I think it was good.
Yeah. I think it was a
Uh,
little bit of both. I think it was story wise, it's our first time using this, so they're teaching us how to use it. And then, as well, there weren't too many attacks for us to use, but there were a couple interesting abilities. We had that one that upped our movement speed, but we were taking damage while we used it. There was another one that, like, halved the damage we were taking, but it used, like, a lot of EP or MP. I think it was called EP, but it's basically MP.
mhm.
Um, so there were a couple interesting abilities for us to use. So I think it was just letting us know that those are available for you to use. So I thought that part was okay. You know, as a tutorial, I thought the tutorial was pretty boring. Um, but I think it was necessary story wise and to just let a couple people know that those abilities are there. I heard some people say they didn't even know there was a healing ability available. So
Yeah, I think also, like, sometimes when you're in a solo duty, you usually encounter, like, some kind of smaller additional enemies, like your trash mobs in a dungeon, essentially. And in this case, because Sapphire Weapon was really only fighting one opinion or one opponent, excuse me, with a couple of ads in the middle, that also might have lent to the idea that, well, maybe we do need a tutorial for this.
yeah. You have to say, like, the ads that came up, they were pretty much taken care of with like one AoE ability, so they were
Mhm.
pretty forgettable.
Yeah, you just had to line yourself up right, and then it was like, all right, they're out of the way.
So moving on from the fight itself and into the story, um, so we're dealing with a new Legatus, and we never really see his face. We see him doing push-ups in front of his little squires. Uh, do you think this is someone that we know, and they're just hiding his face from us?
I think they're hiding his face for now, but I don't know that he's anybody that we know yet. Maybe it's somebody who they just want to reveal later.
Like, I really don't understand what the point is of hiding their face if we don't know them. Is it really just to, like, I don't understand just, like,
It's a
prolonging
dramatic
it.
effect. It's just dramatic effect for when they do show him off and we do fight him. My guess is we'll end up fighting him. That's
So he's going to be the main protagonist for this story eventually, not Gaius's kids.
yeah, he'll end up being the main antagonist or like a second phase of something. I think we'll end up fighting him at some point. Or maybe it's something to do with the next expansion, you know, maybe we end up fighting this new Legatus later.
You don't think it's going to be Fan Daniel?
Doesn't sound like Van Daniel.
No, I mean the main protagonist for the next expansion.
Oh, the main antagonist? No, the main antagonist is going to be Fan Daniel. I don't know, we have a good number of antagonists set up. We've got Xenos, we've got Fan Daniel. Do we need anybody else? Do
There's
we
a
want another Legatus in the
there's a
picture?
big part of me that wants Xenos to be dealt with in the point 4 and point 5 patches. I do
That would be
not want another Xenos expansion.
I agree. I agree, and I'm hoping we get rid of Xenos pretty soon. I kind of doubt it.
And I don't want Fan Daniel in the next expansion either, to be honest. I hope this shit gets taken care of quickly and
No,
we have something
I
new.
want it Fandaniel or Fandango is what I call him. I wanna see Fandango just be super derpy.
I agree. In what? Acai's body? Is that who he's
Asahi's
in?
body, yeah.
Um. So yeah, one of the names that keeps on being brought up for this quest is Alphonse. Al, I think it's Alphonse, which is one
Yes.
of Gaius's kids, I believe. But have we
Hmm.
seen him yet in like adult form?
Now we have.
Did we?
Oh wait, no, Alphonse. No, we haven't seen Alphonse yet.
So I'm kind of wondering if maybe that's Alphonse and he became a legatus.
Mm,
And those are
could
like really his brothers and sisters talking to him, but he's just like, I'm legatus. You will not address me as sister or brother. Like I'm
I
your
remember
leader.
from the last time what race he was.
Oh
Was he
yeah, I don't
Garland?
remember from the kids.
Was he Garland? Because it looks like he had the character model of like a Garland.
I don't know. He's kind of tall like a Aura, but I guess he didn't have horns that we could see from the outline, did he?
No, I didn't see a tail. That's the big thing. I didn't see a tail.
Yeah. That was my wild speculation because I don't know who Alphonse is yet. I don't think we've seen him. But I think the main backstory we got for Gaius was pretty interesting. Last time we were left with Vaudelin threatening to kill Gaius, and this time we find out that the Ellison guy, Vaudelin, his family was killed by Gaius and the Black Rose. And during the Praetorium, when Gaius was under all the rubble and stuff, he worked his way out. Vaudelin found him and he was going to strike him down. But Gaius went into a speech about how he wanted to cleanse the world of Asians, and Vaudelin decided to let him live as long as he was going on that path of hunting down all the Asians. But it's kind of understood between them that at any point Vaudelin could strike Gaius down, and I thought that was pretty interesting.
I mean, it's kind of cool having seen that now. I'd always been kind of wondering what caused Gaius to switch over to hunting Ashians, and even though it's pretty quick, the transition between, not dying and becoming the shadow hunter, I think it's pretty reasonable, and it also makes sense that the people helping him out also question, what's he really up to?
Mm-hmm.
Um, is he just mad? Like, does he have any ulterior motives in terms of is he going to help Garlemald and all that? Like, you really don't know. And I think that's just been a great addition to the story of Gaius. I was
Yeah.
hoping for more, and they gave me what I was looking for.
Yeah, I liked it a lot because at the end of the previous one, I was like, "Oh man, are we about to get double crossed? What's going on? Is Gaius really working for this guy, and it's going to be like helping Garlemald?" So I was pretty happy with how this one turned out.
I was
And oh, go
oh,
ahead.
I was afraid that he was going to just kind of be relegated to like, side quest territory. Like he
Mm,
was just going to be thrown into the MSQ, and then we'd go into something like, the Warring Triad, where like I probably wouldn't pay much attention to it, but the story in this little weapon saga is really, really good.
yeah, I agree.
And they paid a lot of attention to him, so I'm happy.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the story much more than the actual battle we got, the fight we got. And the little town we get to, what's it called? Like Turncliffe?
I had forgotten, I'm so bad at names, and it's even worse because I did Sapphire Weapon literally yesterday.
It
But
was
it's a beautiful town.
it was something cliff, and I think it was Turncliffe. Reminded me of like the landscape of Limsa, kinda. But it was a cool little town. You mentioned or you put in the outline there were lots of NPCs that we could go talk to, and I definitely talked to all of them.
Yeah, there were. They put a lot of time into this area. There's like a triple triad NPC there. There's like a good number of NPCs that you can just talk to around there. Um, there's an ironworks engineer. I'd recommend you go ahead and talk to him. I
Mm-hmm.
loved talking to the ironworks engineer, and then you get to go into like this little workshop and just get specs on the G Warrior. I guess it's like kind of Gundam theme. You can take little screenshots of your character sitting on the
Yeah.
Gundam and posing with the Gundam or the G Warrior.
They're like, "Are
And
you
I
done
thought it
yet?"
was a lot of fun, but I can't help but think, they put all this time into this one little area that you go into and then you leave. Why would they design all of that just for this one little thing? Like, I can't help but think that there's a good chance that we may end up coming back here, if not to this particular place, especially given the Triple Triad NPC. Like, we may end up coming back to this region for 6.0. That's my thought.
So there
Um,
there is a NPC in the locks that you can get back to this area. So like if you didn't play Triple Triad to get that card, you can come back to it.
mhm.
So they've already made it so you can come back to this. But I agree, it's kind of been fleshed out that I do want to see even more of it. Like I want to see what real zone this little town is in.
Yeah, and I'm thinking my prediction for 6.0 is we might end up going to Garlemald, the Garlean Empire. But my guess is we're going to be going there through a whole bunch of different regions that Garlemald controls. So just like Garlean territory before we actually get into like Garlemald, like original Garlemald, if that makes any sense.
That makes sense. I personally don't know enough backstory to know how much like real land is between us and Garlemald. Uh, but I can see that having to like fight our way there.
Hmm.
So anything else in 5.3? Have you done the 24-man raid yet?
I have. I died a lot. I remember that. I thought it was pretty good. Your story's kind of coming out of nowhere. I love that we finally got to see 2B.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like we may end up seeing 9S coming back pretty soon. Um, so I thought it was great. I loved that. Well, spoiler alert here, but 2P kind of turning
Yep.
on us was kind of neat. And I don't know. It was a fun 24-man raid. I think it was a little easier though than Copied Factory.
Do you?
I do.
I I think it's about even. I think my biggest problem is like definitely on that first fight when I did it the first time, 7 out of 8 in my group died to one of the first mechanics, and
Mhm.
that didn't end up wiping the raid. Which I definitely think when like one of the three alliances gets completely wiped out, it should probably wipe the raid. So I thought it was easy on that front, but I kind of had that opinion of Copied Factory as well. I thought they were pretty close, difficulty wise. I wouldn't say one was head and shoulders easier than the other.
Mhm. I still thought it was pretty fun though. I liked it. It definitely like makes you think about, okay, how am I going to react to these mechanics? Again, I died a lot the first time I did it, but you learn. It's the same thing with every kind of duty. You just kind of learn how to do things.
Yeah, and that's like my favorite part. One of my favorite things in the game is going into the 24-man raid blind and then just learning the mechanics. And I know a lot of people get frustrated when they die. I don't care if I die at all. I'm like, okay, I died. Now I know what that ability actually does, and I'm going to do my best not to get killed by it again.
Yep, and it's like worst case scenario, if you really can't figure it out, just ask somebody in the party. They probably know.
Yeah. So is there anything about 5.3 you wanted to talk about specifically?
I think I've hit all the high points of my 5.3 experience. I've loved it so far.
Yeah.
Um, I love all the attention to detail, and with all that's in there, I think it's great that they waited to release this to everybody, until it was ready.
Yeah, I don't know how much was like the amount of content that they had going, or I think it probably was just like the pandemic that they had to deal with.
Hmm.
But I'm really enjoying it as well. I think the last thing we have to get to is there was a new Tales from the Shadows released this week, and it focused on Beg Luck, our new Mo friend from the MSQ, during their time as court mage in the castle of Gruen's Leaked. I don't know how to say that word at all. But warning, if you have not read this one yet, there will be spoilers. This was in Vobert, so quite a while ago, a nation dominated by the Drawn and the Galgant, who through an alliance formed the kingdom. So the Drawn are like the Aura, right?
Yep, and then the Galgent are like the Rugaden.
Rugadin, yeah, that is correct. What'd you think about this one overall?
I personally love like just kind of It's a bit of a fairy tale sort of story, but I like kingdom mechanics and sad endings,
Yeah.
really. So I loved this one.
So this was like pretty early on in Becklug's career. And what something I found interesting was during the MSQ, maybe I just didn't catch on to how they were referring to Becklug. I had just kind of always assumed they were a girl. In my head, I just always thought Becklug was girl. But in the story, they always say they, there. They never give a gender to Becklug. I thought that was kind of interesting. Did you notice that at all?
I did, and I think that's true because a lot of your fey creatures are gender neutral.
Okay,
It's the same thing with the pixies.
I did. I didn't even catch on to that. But yeah, so Becklug is working as a mage in this castle of old, and one of their best friends is Princess Paldia. The two of them were best friends, and Paldia's older sister is Saldia, and she eventually becomes queen of the land. And I know you were giving a little snicker to the names of these sisters.
It was it's like just such an interesting naming convention. It's like, what if your name was Robert and you had a brother and his name was Bobbert? It's a similar thing. It's just like, okay, you changed one letter.
Saul and Paul.
Saul and Paul, yeah.
Um. So yeah,
Name aside.
Bacalog originally thinks that Paul Diaz a little jealous of Saldia when she becomes the queen of the next land, but she claims that isn't true. She really loves her sister. She just doesn't want to be married away, which is the next plan her father has for her. But rather than be married off, Paldia worked it so she could stay with her family as a court mage as well. However, this brought about its own challenges because she was not magically inclined. She begged Becklug to unlock her magical abilities through the efforts that they had been using to study the soul. Begrudgingly, Becklug agreed, worried for the damage that could be done to Paldia's soul. But through these measures, Becklug was successful in releasing Paldia's magical capabilities so she could become a court mage.
And could stay with her family. Very sweet.
Yes, and I think I kind of left out in this description that there was a character named Taldic who was also a member of the court's mage who convinced the king to agree to this plan.
Yes.
Uh,
Paldia was very excited when Taldric said, hey, let me go put in a word too. I think I can convince him.
yeah. So that's a name to remember. Sometime later, unprecedented attacks from beasts that appeared out of nowhere began to plague the kingdom. They eventually learned that the citizens of Vobert were in fact turning into these monsters. Princess Saldia, with her Princess Paldia's unwavering support, came to the country's aid and fought on the front lines to defend the country from the beasts. They were able to contain the threat, but they were still at a loss for the cause. Did you have any thoughts on what was causing this?
Well, I have a couple of thoughts, but if I'm remembering correctly, the tank quest might have covered that. Let's keep going.
Back at the castle, Beckalug silently feared that the changes she had made to Paldia's soul were somehow the cause of the beast's sudden appearances. Months passed with Beckalug locked in their study, researching the ways of the soul, trying to find a correlation, until a Soul Ul, the king's steward, came to their study and shared that they had discovered the villain causing the transformations. It was the dreaded Taldric, and he was caught in the act. Thank goodness it wasn't Paldia or Beckalug's fault. However, Soul Ul then proclaimed that the monsters were swarming the grounds as they spoke, and for Becklug to stay hidden for safety's sake, but Becklug was fearful for their best friend Paldia's safety. Beckalug immediately took off to find Paldia and ran into one of the warriors of lights in the process. They found Paldia, who was in the process of transforming into a monster. The Elezen adventurer wanted to dispatch her, but Beckalug pleaded that they could save her and to put her in the jail until she could be cured. I thought this was a pretty effective scene and a good introduction to the adventurers being here.
I thought it was too, and it really does kind of show like the Becklug was a bit concerned, I think, for Paldia, if I'm remembering correctly, and
Yes.
thought that maybe unlocking her magical abilities might have caused her to really be the one behind all of this
That was
being
in the
transformed.
back of their head that they had
It
caused
might
this.
be it might be her, it might be her, and so it's fortunate, of course, it's a bit of a relief to Becklug that, it's not it's not their best friend, but unfortunately, their best friend is now in the process of becoming a monster.
Yeah, and though Becklug wished to stop the transformation, they could do nothing. While no one quite knows what ultimately became of her after the Flood of Light, it is said that she remained transformed in her sail when the town was abandoned. As for what became of the ill-starred princess after that, neither Becklug nor anyone can say. And it's also worth noting that it was actually Taldric who had I forget the terminology that they used in the story, but was it like shadow magic or dark magic that had infiltrated Paldia's heart and caused her to
Right.
do all these things.
Yeah, to the point where Paldia was even saying things like, basically denouncing her family, saying like, "I hated my family. You promised me you would bury my sister and make me queen." Um, and it was only like Becklug kind of had to drag Paldia out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so in her last moments before becoming this creature, um, all she was left with was just despair.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
I believe there was a
so,
line that was like she was wishing she got the mercy that her sister got because her sister died and she
yes,
wanted to die too. And I thought that was a really effective line.
it really is. And funnily enough, in Shadowbringers, you might have noticed that there's an A rank hunt in Ilmeg that has the name O Porus Paldia.
Yeah.
So now we know where that name at least might have come from.
Is it
And the
her?
description, of course, includes the message that Paldia may have carved into the sign, along with Paldia's name. The message itself says, "Blinded by my lust for the throne, I heeded a traitor's honeyed words. I was a pawn in his grand design and paid the price. I beg only for the self-same mercy my sister
No,
received." So the
that's the
question,
mercy
of
line.
course, given the description, then is that hunt her?
I gotta go with yes, in my opinion.
Well, no one can say, right? That's what the story says. No one can say, not even us, apparently.
I'm gonna say it. It's her.
I think it might be her too, but really, no one can say.
Yeah. And I googled Grenis Licht, which was the name of the castle, and I found that there was a
Mhm.
challenge log entry for this. It's challenge log entry 32 Deep Wood Swim, and the description reads: In the time of Vobert, when Ligia was known as Grus Licht, these ruins were a thriving castle town. Now they languish at the bottom of Long Mirror Lake, submerged in the waters, drawn forth by the Foth as the fairies laid claim to Ilmeg. So there's definitely a lot of history in the first that we do not know yet.
Yep. I do have an idea though about this castle town,
Mm-hmm.
though. Having a little bit of a grasp of German, Grüneslicht. Oh, that was terrible pronunciation, but the name means green light.
Green light. Okay.
Green light. So maybe the original designs, were green or some kind of green light as a characteristic of the town.
That's awesome. And you pronounced it much better than I had.
I'm sorry, it was slaughtering in my mind, however.
So yeah, I think that is it for our notes to hit this week. So now it's time for the community roundup, partner. And I want to kick it off to you, Miss Emmy, for anything you would like to plug that you have going on or anything that some of your friends might have going on.
Oh my goodness. Well, the first thing, of course, I do have to say, if you're interested in roleplay in FF14, go ahead and check out Musecast14. Our website is musecastxiv.com. like I said, again, we are on hiatus, but we've got a really, really great little archive of episodes that we've done so far, and so it's a really great reference. And we still have a Discord that's running and active, so give that a little look. You can also check out Stelazio Virtual Theater and A Stage Reborn, both. Both are really good arts organizations. ASR is an arts nonprofit that's just making the arts more accessible, including FF14 productions, but it's really just arts and accessibility in general. And then Stelazio Virtual Theater, of course, being an FF14 theater troupe that will be coming out with Phantom of the Opera in October. And can I give a shout out?
Of course.
Shout out to Anonymous for helping me to find the Elizin dude's name, is what I had told him during Sapphire Weapon, because I completely forgot names and I'm terrible with them. So thank you, Moose.
Thank you, Moose. Any other shout outs to give?
Let me think. I think that's it. If you want to check out my own social media, I do have a Twitter at EmilyKochVA, EmilyKochVA, and then the MusecastXIV Twitter is at MusecastXIV, so you can check out both of those Twitters.
And I will link everything in the show notes so you all can check those out if you forget. But thank you so much, Emi. It was a pleasure having you tonight. I really appreciate you stepping in tonight in Avi's place.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. It's been a long time since I've been on really any podcast, but it's lovely to be here.
Yes, we're gonna have to have you as a guest more often. But just one piece of listener reaction in regards to last week. Aja30 says, no tears. The climax / reversal, trial plus scenes that followed were not earned like in 5.0 story. I didn't feel anything for that character. The resolution was satisfying but predictable with some nice emotional beats. The teaser left me curious but unhyped for what's next. So, Aja30 not totally pleased with the MSQ 5.3, but not totally out on it either. A little bit of mixed reactions on that.
I can see that.
Yeah.
And I feel like on this one, I did like it, in my opinion. I feel like I'm just thinking back to me talking about why I didn't like Y'shtola, and I'm like, I feel like I should apologize to everybody who does like Y'shtola, because I know there are so many people out there who do like her. But I can see Adam the predictableness of this story.
It was very predictable. Gotta give him that. But with that is going to be it for this episode. As always, we have enjoyed hanging out with all of you live here on Twitch. So thank you for spending your valuable time with us. Be sure to hit that follow button so you know the next time we will be going live. And a big thank you to everyone listening to the podcast through iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, OnlyFans, whatever you're choosing to listen to us on. You really are the reason we keep making episodes. And remember, wherever you do listen, it would mean a shit ton to us if you gave our little shit podcast a rating or review, or, just told a friend to check us out. Here with Emi, I'm Vegan Pete, and I will talk to you next week. Goodbye.